Most people live under the illusion that time is something that is ticking outside of them, on a wall clock, a phone, or a calendar. They speak of time running out as though it is an external force moving independently of their existence. But the deeper truth is, time is not ticking away. You are. Your very life is the measure of time. From the moment you were born, the countdown began, not in the sense of doom or fear, but in the reality that life is a limited engagement. Every tick of the clock is not just a sound, it is a heartbeat. It is the movement of your own body and being through existence. The clock is not ticking, you are slowly but surely disintegrating. Not in a negative sense, but simply in accordance with the natural law. Time is not something you can keep in your pocket. You can hold money, you can hold hands, but you cannot hold time. You can only experience it. And the quality of your experience determines how rich your time truly is. Someone may have 24 hours in a day and feel deeply fulfilled. Another may have the same 24 hours and feel as though life is slipping through their fingers. The difference is not time, it is awareness. We are always asking, how do I manage time? But time doesn't need your management. It is perfectly managed by the cosmos. The earth is spinning, the sun is rising, the moon is waxing and waning without your interference. What you need to manage is yourself, your attention, your energy, your priorities. These are what determine your relationship with time. You can either move through life consciously, where every moment matters, or unconsciously, where days blend into weeks and weeks into years. And suddenly you ask, where did all the time go? The answer is, it didn't go anywhere. You went. You were busy chasing things, distracted, postponing joy, postponing life. You kept saying, there's time, I'll do it tomorrow. But what you don't realize is that time is not a promise. It is a possibility. Understanding time is not a mental exercise, it is existential. When you truly grasp that you are time, a shift happens. You stop wasting it, you stop killing it, you stop trying to pass it, you start living it. Every breath becomes significant. Every word you speak is not casual, it becomes conscious. Think of this. If you had only 1 week to live, how would you spend it? Suddenly, everything unnecessary would fall away. The arguments, the scrolling, the anxiety about trivial matters, it would all vanish. You would become alert, alive, intentional. But why wait for death to give you that clarity? Why not live every day with that intensity, that involvement? People think wealth means having more of everything, but real wealth is about the ability to be fully present in everything you already have. If you are sipping a cup of tea and you are fully there with it, not thinking of yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's tasks, then you are experiencing richness. You are not merely passing time, you are touching life. Most human beings suffer not because they don't have enough time, but because they are not in tune with the nature of time. When you say, I don't have time, what you're really saying is, I don't know what to do with myself. Because time is not hiding from you. Every moment is given freely. You are not charged a fee to wake up this morning. You didn't have to earn the next breath. It is just flowing, gifted to you. Whether you embrace it or waste it is entirely up to you. Even in your busiest moments, ask yourself, am I present or am I just passing through? Presence is what transforms ordinary time into sacred time. Washing dishes can become a spiritual act if you are fully involved. Sitting silently for a moment can be more enriching than $1 million deal if you are deeply aware. Because in presence, you are not just spending time, you are becoming time. There is an ancient yogic understanding that says, you do not have time, you are time. Your body is a clock, your breath is a rhythm, your mind is a wave riding the current of life. When you begin to live with this realization, you stop counting hours and start cherishing moments. If you value time, life will value you. This is not just a poetic statement, it is a fundamental truth about the nature of existence. Time is not something you can control, stretch, or negotiate with. It moves with absolute precision, indifferent to your plans, ambitions, or desires. But when you begin to value time, not as a resource to exploit, but as a sacred opportunity, life begins to respond in ways that are subtle, yet profound. People often complain they don't have time, but the real issue is not the lack of time, it is the lack of attention. Everyone has the same 24 hours, but what you give your attention to determines the richness or poverty of your life. Time by itself is neutral, but what you fill it with, that defines the quality of your existence. When you value time, you begin to act with clarity. You stop reacting to life and instead begin to respond consciously. Most of the suffering in people's lives comes not from what happens to them, but from how they misuse the time between events. They stew in regret. They wallow in anxiety. They get trapped in mental loops about things they cannot change. This is not a misuse of resources or money. It is a misuse of time, because every moment you spend in unconscious thought is a moment you could have lived fully. When you value time, even your thoughts become sharper, cleaner, and more intense. You must understand, life itself is time. When you were born, the timer started. Your body is running on that timer. Your breath, your heartbeat, your cellular functions, all of these are happening in time. If you waste time, you are wasting life. If you honor time, you are honoring your very existence. This is not a matter of productivity, this is a matter of presence. You do not need to do more. You simply need to be more present in what you are already doing. The moment you begin to value time, distractions lose their appeal. Scrolling endlessly, gossiping mindlessly, worrying uselessly, these things begin to fall away because they no longer fit into the sacredness of your moments. You realize that every distraction is not just stealing your focus, it is stealing your life. And once you see that clearly, you naturally begin to choose differently, not out of discipline or guilt, but from a deeper reverence for the time you've been given. When you value time, your relationships change. You stop wasting words. You speak with intention. You listen more fully. You become aware that each interaction is a moment you will never get back, and so you bring your full self to it. Whether it's a stranger or someone you love deeply, you realize that this moment will never happen again in exactly the same way. This gives rise to gratitude, compassion, and depth. People chase success, wealth, and recognition, thinking these things will give them a meaningful life. But what gives meaning is not the achievement, it is the time you invested consciously in pursuit of it. A simple act done with full involvement is far richer than a grand achievement done mechanically. When you value time, the smallest actions become expressions of devotion. Making your bed, walking in silence, even breathing become sacred. Time is the most democratic thing in existence. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about your status, background, or beliefs. It offers itself equally to all. But how you engage with it makes all the difference. If you respect it, you will find that your life begins to flow with greater ease. Not because time changed, but because your awareness aligned with it. The moment you start aligning your actions, thoughts, and emotions with the reality of time, you start moving with life instead of against it. It's not about being in a hurry. It's about being in harmony. Some people confuse valuing time with rushing. But rushing is not a sign of valuing time. It's a sign of panic, of being out of sync. When you truly value time, you become deliberate. You act with clarity, not chaos. You become intense, but not tense. You begin to experience a different rhythm of life. A rhythm where every moment is rich with possibility, simply because you are fully in it. If you treat time as sacred, it will begin to shape you in beautiful ways. You will see that discipline is not about control, it is about alignment. When you value time, you don't need external motivation. The very awareness that your moments are limited gives money lost can be earned back. Time lost is gone forever. This is not just a statement, it is a direct reflection of how existence functions. Money is a tool created by society. It is traded, saved, invested, and even printed. If you lose it, there is always a chance, a possibility, that you may regain it. Time, on the other hand, is not a social construct. It is a cosmic process. It does not respond to your desires or efforts. Since a moment has passed, it can never return. When people lose money, they become alert. They react, they plan, they hustle to earn it back. But when they lose time, they hardly notice. Hours scroll away in trivial activities, days vanish in procrastination, and years slip by in unconscious living. Yet they mourn the loss of money more than the loss of life. This is not a small mistake. It is a fundamental misalignment with reality. Because while wealth can be rebuilt, time cannot even be paused, let alone recovered. Time is the foundation of life. Every other achievement, possession, or relationship happens within the boundaries of time. It is the container in which your entire experience unfolds. If that container is leaking, if you are letting time slip through without awareness, everything you build inside it will be unstable. You may gain status, but feel empty. You may accumulate possessions but miss the joy, because the true wealth was never money. It was your time, your presence, your ability to experience this moment fully. Imagine if every day someone deposited 86,400 units into your account but told you that what you didn't use by the end of the day would disappear forever. No carry forward, no saving. You would probably become very conscious of how you spend each unit. Yet life is already doing this. You are gifted 86,400 seconds every single day. What you don't use consciously is lost. Not in the sense of punishment, but simply in the way that sunlight, if not embraced, fades with the evening. The real tragedy is not in having less time. It is in not knowing how to use what you already have. People think they need more time, but what they truly need is more awareness. Because in awareness, a single moment can stretch into something timeless. A few seconds of deep connection can mean more than hours of empty conversation. A few minutes of focused effort can be more productive than a whole day of distracted labor. It is not the quantity of time, but the quality of attention that defines the richness of life. Regret often comes not from what we did, but from the time we lost not doing what truly mattered. We regret the years spent pleasing others, the months wasted worrying, the hours drained by meaningless comparison. And yet the cycle continues because we still believe we have more time. But life does not come with a countdown visible to the eye. The clock is always running, but it does not tell you how many ticks are left. That is the silent urgency of time. It is precious because it is invisible, because it is finite, because it is slipping with every breath. If someone steals your money, you feel violated. But if distractions steal your time, you often let it pass with a smile. This is not because time is less important. It is because we've been conditioned to value what is visible, what is countable, what is tangible. But the most powerful forces in life, love, energy, attention, time, are not seen. Yet they shape everything. When you begin to treat time with the same seriousness, the same respect you would give to your wealth, you start to transform your life from the inside out. Time doesn't punish, it simply passes. Whether you are joyful or miserable, involved or absent, the clock continues. You can either ride with it in awareness or be dragged by it in unconsciousness. There is no stopping it, but there is a way to align with it, to dance with it, to make it your ally rather than your enemy. That alignment begins with understanding that time is not a commodity you can hoard or exchange. It is your life in motion. It is the very soil from which every experience, every emotion, every expression grows. The value of time is often recognized too late, when opportunities are missed, when relationships fade, when health deteriorates. In those moments, people look back and say, if only I had more time. But the truth is, time was never hiding. It was always there, flowing gently, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be honored. Not with panic, but with presence. Presence is the highest form of wealth. This is not an idea, not a philosophy, but a fundamental truth you can experience directly. In the vast marketplace of life, people chase everything: money, fame, validation, possessions, but rarely do they chase presence. And yet, presence is the only thing that actually makes any of those pursuits meaningful. Without presence, you can have everything and still feel like you have nothing. With presence, even a simple moment becomes overflowing with richness. Presence is not about sitting cross-legged with eyes closed. Presence is about being so utterly involved in this moment that nothing else exists. When you are fully present, time slows down, not because the clock moves differently, but because you are no longer caught in the illusion of past and future. You are in touch with the only reality that exists. This moment, this breath, this beat of life that is happening right now. In that state, life ceases to be a series of events and becomes a living, breathing experience. You may sit at a luxurious table with exotic food from around the world, but if your mind is elsewhere, thinking of yesterday's argument or tomorrow's task, then you are poor, not because you lack resources, but because you lack presence. On the other hand, someone sitting with a simple meal under a tree, fully absorbed in the sound of the wind, the taste of the food, the rhythm of their breath, that person is rich beyond measure. They're not surviving time, they are living it. Presence is not something you attain through effort. It is your natural state. But because the mind is constantly jumping between memory and imagination, it clouds the clarity of this moment. Most people are either reliving their past or rehearsing their future. They are rarely here. And so, they miss the magic. the bird that just flew past, the look in someone's eyes, the quiet stillness that can transform even the most ordinary moment into something sacred. In presence, there is no anxiety. Anxiety requires future. Regret requires past. But presence, pure presence, is free from both. It is the doorway to inner richness because it connects you to the depth of life as it is, not as you wish it to be or fear it might become. You begin to see beauty where you never looked before. You begin to feel connected not just to people, but to life itself. All the great masters, saints, sages, they didn't become powerful because they had more information. They became powerful because they became present. Their mind was not split in 1,000 directions. It was right here, now, unmoving, aware. When you are present, your attention becomes like a laser. Whatever you direct it toward becomes deeper, richer, clearer. Whether it's your work, your relationships, your inner self, presence gives it depth. People spend years trying to accumulate things, thinking that wealth is about possession. But possession without presence is hollow. It is like having a grand piano and never playing a single note. It sits there, impressive in form, but empty in function. Presence is the music. Presence is the experience. Presence is what breathes life into everything you own, everything you do, and everything you are. When you are present, you stop measuring life in terms of years or achievements. You begin to measure it in terms of aliveness. A day full of presence feels more meaningful than a decade of distracted existence. Presence gives you access to wisdom, to intuition, to a kind of intelligence that cannot be learned. It can only be experienced. It tunes you to the pulse of existence, to the silent intelligence that runs this cosmos. Being present doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become powerful without needing to dominate. You respond to life instead of reacting to it. You move from compulsiveness to consciousness. You begin to act, not from fear or desire, but from clarity. And that clarity brings with it a richness that no external wealth can match. Because now, even the simplest of things, a walk, a smile, a breath, feels like a treasure. This is the real wealth that cannot be stolen, cannot be lost in a crash, cannot be taken by time. In fact, presence is the only thing that stands outside of time. Everything else you accumulate will eventually fade. But the moments you lived fully, the ones you truly experienced, don't manage time. Align with it. The moment you think about managing time, you are already separating yourself from it. You are imagining time as something out there, something to be tamed, organized, or controlled. But time is not separate from you. You are not outside of time, and time is not outside of you. You are time. Every breath you take, every cell that moves, every thought that arises within you is a function of time. Trying to manage time is like trying to manage your own heartbeat. It is not a task, it is a rhythm. It is something you must align with, not manipulate. Modern life is obsessed with time management. There are books, apps, planners, and strategies all designed to help you squeeze more into every hour. But the truth is, you don't need more hours. What you need is more awareness within the hours you already have. Alignment with time means that you are no longer struggling to keep up or trying to get ahead. You are flowing with the natural current of life. You are moving in sync with the rhythm of existence. When you align with time, life feels less like a race and more like a dance. You're no longer rushing to do more, to be more, to have more. You are simply responding to the moment as it unfolds. There is a certain intelligence in the flow of time, and when you are aligned with it, decisions become clearer, actions become more effective, and your energy is used with precision rather than scattered effort. It is not about doing less. It is about doing what is needed, when it is needed, without resistance. Alignment requires presence. You cannot align with something if you are not here. If your body is here, but your mind is 10 steps ahead or stuck in the past, you are out of alignment. And when you are out of alignment, even simple tasks become burdensome. You may find yourself busy all day but exhausted and unsatisfied by the evening. That is not because the day was too short. It is because you were not fully present in it. Aligning with time means you bring your whole self into the moment. Not just your body, not just your thoughts, but your awareness. People often complain of not having enough time, but the truth is, they are simply not aligned with the time they have. You cannot control the hours, but you can choose how you enter them. If you begin your day in alignment, with a clear and conscious connection to your inner self, the rest of the day flows more smoothly. When you are in alignment, time does not feel like a burden. It becomes a vessel for your expression, your creativity, your presence. Alignment with time is also alignment with nature. Nature is never in a hurry, yet everything gets done. Trees do not rush to grow. The sun does not forget to rise. There is no panic in the falling of rain or the blooming of flowers. Everything happens in its time, according to its own inner rhythm. When you are aligned, you also begin to function with that kind of grace. You do not need to push or force life to happen. You simply show up fully and allow your actions to arise from that clarity. There is a profound stillness that comes when you are aligned with time. Even in the midst of activity, there is no chaos. There is movement, but it is grounded in awareness. It is the difference between being tossed by the river and swimming with it. One is exhausting, the other is liberating. Alignment brings with it a sense of effortlessness, not because life becomes easy, but because your inner resistance disappears. When you treat time as a problem to solve, it becomes heavy. But when you see it as a partner in your existence, it becomes sacred. You begin to value each moment not for what it can produce, but for what it is. A chance to be, a chance to see, a chance to live. That shift in perception is the doorway to true richness. Because now you are no longer counting moments, you are inhabiting them. This is not about becoming perfect in your use of time. It is about becoming honest with yourself. Are you aligned with what matters? Are you in sync with your own inner rhythm? Are you present enough to recognize when something is right or wrong for you? When alignment happens, clarity follows. And with clarity, even the most complex life becomes simple. Time is the only true currency of life. Everything else, money, status, achievements, even relationships, are all expressions that exist within the framework of time. The moment you understand this, your entire perspective on living begins to shift. Because while society may measure success in terms of wealth or recognition, life itself is measuring your experience in moments. Not just how many, but how deeply you live them. When someone says they are wealthy, what does that truly mean? Is it about how much they own, or is it about how freely they can use their time? A man with billions in the bank, but no time to breathe, to walk, to sit in stillness, is not rich. He is a prisoner of his own pursuits. On the other hand, someone with modest means, but the ability to spend their time in alignment with their nature, in joy, in presence, that person holds a wealth that no bank can store. Everything you do in life costs time. Every yes you say to something is a no to something else. This is not a punishment. It is simply how the equation of life works. If you give your time to things that drain you, to fears that paralyze you, to distractions that numb you, you are spending your most sacred currency on things that do not return any real value. But if you invest your time in growth, in presence, in truth, in love, then your life begins to reflect a deeper kind of richness. You cannot store time. You cannot multiply it. You cannot earn extra hours tomorrow because you worked hard today. It moves moment by moment, whether you pay attention or not. And so the wisest thing one can do is to become intimate with time, to respect it, to feel its movement in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the quiet ticking of the unseen clock within. When you feel this intimacy, your choices begin to change naturally. Not because someone told you to prioritize, but because you start to recognize what truly matters. This is why presence and purpose are the highest forms of intelligence. When you understand that time is your currency, you stop throwing it away on things that leave you empty. You become aware of the exchange rate of your life. You start asking not how much money will I make, but how much of my life am I spending for this? That one question changes everything, because now you're not measuring by external standard. You are measuring by the pulse of your own existence. Many people live as if they are rehearsing for something real that will happen later, as if this moment is just a warm-up and the actual performance is coming someday. But someday never arrives, because life is not waiting. The only moment you truly have is this one. All of your memories happened in a now. All of your future will arrive as a now. So, if you're not fully alive now, when do you plan to be? Time does not discriminate. It gives equally to all. But how you use it, that is where the difference lies. You may look at someone else's life and think they have more opportunity, more luck, more privilege. But the real privilege is not external, it is internal. It is the capacity to be present, to be aware, to choose consciously. That capacity is available to every human being, regardless of their background. And it begins the moment you realize your time is not free, it is precious. Even the most beautiful moments of your life came with a cost. They cost you time. That vacation, that romantic evening, that breakthrough in your work, they all consumed your time. And they were worth it, not because of the outcome, but because you were fully there for them. If you had been distracted, those moments would have passed unnoticed. So the true richness is not in the event. It is in your presence during that event. Everything else you accumulate in life will either fade, rust, be forgotten, or pass on to someone else. Time is the only thing you actually spend and never get back. And yet, it is also the only thing that allows you to create, to love, to grow, to become. This is the paradox and the beauty. Time is both the most limited resource and the most powerful gift. It is constantly leaving you,